Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Meet the Agile Requirements Designer Expert session. My name is Pamela Deason. I'm the head of DevOps Product Marketing here at Broadcom. For those of you not familiar with Agile Requirements Designer, it allows the creation of a model that shows the requirements in a flowchart-like diagram, which helps to identify all of the test cases. With me is Sachin Srivastava. And Sachin, I hope I said your name right. He is an Agile Requirements Designer expert. Sachin, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Pam. Thanks for having me on this. So today I'm going to talk about Agile Requirements Designer, a product which is a model-based testing product.
So, Sachin, the industry seems to be heading towards shift left testing. Where do you think model-based testing fits in the modern automation ecosystem? And what advantage does it bring?
When we talk about shift-left testing, everybody wants to do their testing in their early development. When they are starting with the development, they want to have those test data. They want to have their test cases created, because they want to make sure that they do heavy testing at the start and not wait for the time of integration testing and acceptance testing, etc. So the approach is always to be testing at the start of the start of your development, and continue that testing towards your last sprint. So sprint 1, you have your test data available, you have your test cases available, and you start your testing so that the development knows that the testing is in progress, and you have those data available with you, right? So that is where the model-based testing comes into picture. You can design your test cases based on the idea. So any testing, any development that is happening in the modern world, there's an idea behind it. There's a feature, there's a user story behind those testing. So whenever we have whenever a product owner has an idea, he wants to implement that idea into a feature of a product, right? So that is where the model-based testing comes into picture. So you have an idea, you convert that into a model, and then once you design that model, you can integrate your test data that is associated to that particular model. You can integrate your code, you integrate into your automation logic. So when you have integrated your created a model from your idea, once you generate those test cases, not only you have the test cases available, you have the test data associated to that, and you have the automation code also associated to that generated. So it helps you to do the shift left testing, where you don't actually wait for anybody to design your to write your test cases, design your test data, design your code, write your code, or anything of that sort. So that is where ARD comes into picture, and ARD can solve. ARD is the product that solves the problem of model-based testing, and that is where the approach is always being to have that test data, to have that automation code. If you're doing behavior testing, if you're doing data driven testing, to have that feature file, or you have that test data in a CSV format or in a repository available for your testing. So when we talk about shift left testing, we need certain test cases, we need certain data for it. So that is what ARD provides you. You can create a model integrates with automation logic, you can generate feature file, you can generate Java code, .NET code, C++ code, or whatever code that you want to be generated. It is useful for both your front end as well as your back end testing. So that is where the whole ARD. So if you have a requirement, design the model, generate the test cases, generate the test data, and that is where ARD fits into the whole automation pipeline. It's the starting point. You have a requirement, you design the model, and on day one of your development, you have the test data available, you have the behavior driven data available, etc.
Thank you for that, Sachin. Can you elaborate and maybe share how Agile Requirements Designer solves one of the biggest problems in test automation, which is having the correct testing approach?
So in the modern world, people are always confused whether to go with manual testing or automation testing, and why do you think there is a need for automation? Why do you think there's a need of manual testing? So when you do a manual testing or when you do automation testing, the major pain point for any customer is, if I'm doing it, what if there is a better approach available? What is the thing that I'm missing? what approach that I'm doing, whether it is correct or not. These are the major pain points for a customer. So when we talk about the modern world, everybody wants to be 100% sure of whatever product that they are developing. It's thoroughly tested. So some teams, they prefer manual testing, some teams prefer automation testing. But at the end of the day, the goal is always to make sure that the product is 100% ready and available for end users to use. So any time there is a fault, then there are questionnaires come whether we did the right testing, whether we followed the right testing approach or not. So that is where ARD comes into the picture. So ARD provides you a platform where whenever you have an idea or whenever you are doing your requirement gathering, etc., it gives you an idea that this is how your product should look like. The path that you are designing in the model or the flows that you are designing, it gives you the idea that whatever you have missed during a manual testing approach or during an automation testing. So people, when do manual testing or manual test cases, they write those test cases, or when they are using automation, they are writing the code for the automation. So ARD gives you that platform to analyze if you have missed anything during your manual process or your automation process, and tells you that these were the possible scenarios that you have missed. It tells you what is the percentage that you are testing at your unit level or integration testing or acceptance testing level. So it gives you all of these data that you need. So at the end of the day, product management need that data to understand how well they have written the code, how well they have analyze, optimize the code, etc. So these kind of data that is available. So in order to solve the problem of the testing approach, we provide a solution where if you are currently doing manual testing, we analyze or we import the data that is already available. Let's say if you're using Rally or using Jira, you have written all of those test cases manually. So we can import those test cases and analyze and provide you in case you have missed any of the test cases. So it has the capability to import all the test cases that you have and then design a model out of it, just to give you an idea that you may have missed something. And then there is, if you have automation logic in place, then we can import that automation logic. Let's say if you want to import your Swagger files, if you want to import your if you have written any other automation code, we can import that and understand that based on the model that is created out of that code, like how well you have tested, how well you have written those code, and then give you that analysis at the end and make sure that your testing is accurate. So most of the time there might be a scenario that have been missed during your manual testing. There might be a scenario where you are doing automation and you have missed some of the scenarios. So that is where ARD comes into picture, and gives you a better idea of like what is the coverage, and when you're doing unit testing, whether integration testing, how much you should be testing, and you can do that optimization level at runtime to understand like how to do a better testing. That is what ARD provides you, the better testing approach. That is what ARD brings on the table.
Awesome. So could you possibly give specific examples on the different types of problems that Agile Requirements Designer can solve?
When we are doing automation, the first thing that we need is the test case. The second thing that we need is test data. And the third thing that we need is that data to be available in some sort of a file or repository or anything of where we can execute those test cases, run it against the code and see how well the code is written and how the code is behaving, something of that sort, right? So that is where the shift left testing principles come to picture, right? So ARD, it's a data generation tool. It can generate you the test data that is required. It integrates with a Broadcom tool called Test Data Manager, where it picks up data which is associated to the model, and you can paint or you can print the data along with your test cases. You can have those test data available, integrated with your with each and every path that is created. So in ARD there is a thing called paths, that is by understanding the model, how each and every process is created, there's a path created. So with each path there would be a test data associated to that path. So that is generated by ARD during runtime, and you generate the path. ARD can generate you the test data associated. Then the next problem is when you want to generate the test cases, you want to have that code that is testing that particular path to be generated along with the test data, right? So that is where ARD can integrate with any language. It can be Python, it can be Java, it can be .NET, it can be anything. It can be JS code, it can be any kind of code. And you enter the code into the automation builder of ARD, and it can print you the code along with the path. So when you are generating the paths, not only it is generating you the test data, it is generating you the code that is associated to the test data, right? So when you have on your day one of your requirement gathering, you create a model and you integrate your automation logic into that model. So it will generate you the code, it will generate you the test data. So that is what ARD is solving. So you don't have to depend on testers or developers who write that code to execute that particular test case. So at the end of the day, the goal is to be able to generate the test cases and execute it correctly. So that is where it is providing you a path to generate the test data, and it is providing you a code which is associated to test data and how to test that particular path. And generation is one aspect to it. Now you want that code, whatever code or whatever test data that is generated, to be exported to Rallies and Jira, so that your testers and developer can see what kind of code is generated, what kind of test data is generated. So that is where the integration of ARD is very important with the software, the requirement management tools like Rally, Jira, Zephyr, X-Ray, etc. So these are like common integrations that we have. We can export it to Azure DevOps, we can export it to Rallies and Jiras of the world. So that is where the main capability of the product is to integrate with solutions. That is what we have. And if you don't have any of these solutions, we can export the test cases, the test data into a CSV or an Excel format, into a workbook. So it's totally your requirement and how you want to export the data. And with ARD, if you are integrating with a CI/CD pipeline, you can place ARD in your GitHub or Bitbucket, etc. And at runtime, you can execute a bat file to generate those test cases, your automation code at runtime during CI/CD pipeline, so that when you are generating it, you have that feature file, you have that Java code available, which can be used for continuous testing. So that is how that is what ARD brings on the table. It is the first tool that is required for your continuous testing. It provides you the data that can be then created into a database, can be imported into a database, or can be used as an Excel sheet for your whatever kind of testing approach that you are doing.
So, Sachin, let me ask, in your opinion, who is the ideal candidate within organizations that can benefit the most from using Agile Requirements Designer?
Whenever I talk to customers, the first person that I approach is always the business system analyst, or SDET, are the target audience for me, because they are the ones who will be eventually testing it. And business business analyst or business system analyst would be the ones who are doing the designing, who are reading what the product owner is writing, and understanding what is the definition of done. So when you are writing a new feature or a user story or anything of that sort, the first thing that you have to write along with it is definition of done. What is the success story? How do you define success with a user story or an idea? So that is the business analyst or business system analysts are the ones who understand what is the requirement from business side. They design the model. They are the ones who are doing the visual diagram things. So when we target those people, so if you have a visual diagram created, you can import it directly to ARD and do the same path generation and test data integration, etc. But when we talk to them, we tell them that rather than creating something on a Visio, why don't create it on ARD? So it's the same process of defining a visual, creating a visual diagram. So it's the same process of designing a model. It's just a diagram that you are designing, a flowchart that you are creating on ARD, the same flowchart you are creating on Visio. So you can do the same thing. So once you create a flowchart, you have the test cases available along with the Visio diagram. So that is why the target audience that we have is the business system analyst and the SDET. So SDETs are the ones who write those test cases manually. SDETs are the ones who write the testing code, the unit test, etc. And they are the ones who are designing those test data. And we target them and we tell them the advantage of using the product is once you have that flow chart or the model or whatever that you are designing ready, you can create the same in ARD and you have the test cases available. You can integrate with Broadcom's test data manager to have that test data available, and then you have that Java code automation configuration, etc. You can generate any kind of code that is want. So the target audience that we always want is either a business system analyst who knows what the idea talks about, what is the product's requirement, what is the product owner's requirement, or what is the end goal, what is the feature that they are looking for. And we target the testers. They are the ones who are manually writing the code, manually writing the test data. So that is the audience that we target, and we tell them how easy it is to generate those things. So these are the target audience.
Great, Sachin. Thank you for that. I want to pivot just a minute. With focus shifting to microservices and end-to-end testing, how flexible is Agile Requirements Designer in providing a solution?
ARD is the tool for your microservices, because for your individual services of your microservice or your end-to-end, you have different application. So you can create individual models for your microservices or your application that is part of your end-to-end testing, and they can be part of a subflow. So we have in ARD there is a concept called parent and child flows. So parent flows would have all the child subflows. It's similar to what microservices is doing or end-to-end testing is doing. So when we start the testing, we have to go through each and every application or each and every microservices, and there are components that are related to each other. So the same designing can be done on ARD side. Each and every application of your end-to-end testing or a microservice can be converted into a model. Each application would have their own model. Each application would have those test cases associated with that model, and once you combine all of those application model and connect it to a parent, you can design how your each and every components are fitting into your end-to-end testing. And that is the key advantage of the product, where the subflow would be the application that are involved in your end-to-end testing, and each subflow will have their own paths, test data, their own automation logic, and when you combine it to a parent flow, when you combine it to a parent model, it has all the components, it has all the applications that is required for end-to-end testing, and you can put constraint logic where if certain application is triggered, then you can control how the next action needs to be performed in the flow of the model. So you can have those constraints, so that once you are integrated everything, you have total number of test cases generated based on the whole application, whole end-to-end testing, the whole the microservices. So that is the key advantage. You have individual application testing also going on, and then you have end-to-end testing as well. So there would be scenarios or there would be paths created for all of your end-to-end testing. So that is a key advantage of the product. It gives you that feature where you can combine all the application as a form of a parent and child model. Overall, you can generate you have one model to generate all of your applications internal testing as well as combined integration testing. That is the one that everybody lacks right now. Like integration testing is something the individual components are working as well, but they don't know when it combines together how it is going to impact the testing, right? So this is the problem that ARD is solving, that you have a parent, and once you have any change in individual application, you can update individual models and it automatically reflects to the parent model. So that is the key capability of the product, that You don't have to keep on changing parent. If you have individual application, you update those individual applications or individual microservice, and automatically the parent would be able to understand that there was a change, and automatically it will update the paths based on the change that is happening. There is a the feature within the product to update, delete, repair the paths that have been created by ARD. So that is something which the customers really like, that it has the capability to have those end-to-end testing, the microservices testing available, so that they have one place where you have all the applications combined, which is going to be your parent model, and then if they want to change individual, they have individual or subflow models which will solve the problem of your end-to-end testing. So this end-to-end testing is the key for your from any project perspective, end-to-end testing, because your project will have several different applications running, you'll have different components, and you want to test how well they work together. So that is where ARD's parent and child model is going to come into place, and it will test your end-to-end scenarios. So that is what is required in the modern world of testing. Apart from that, like, there are other scenarios that ARD fits into picture, and ARD is a model based testing tool, and it is a tool to generate based on your requirement. So there is one aspect of model based, and then there is another aspect of generating based on your requirement. So that is where ARD like solves a lot of problem that you might face in future. That is the shift left testing approach, that it gives you an idea that there might be negative and positive scenarios coming out of a particular feature or a particular idea, and it gives you that during your day one of your testing, or when you are if you are like deep into your development and you want to understand what you might have missed. So it has a feature to import all of the flows and your data, so that you can understand what you might have missed during your development. If you're doing, like, if you're on sprint 10, 12, 15 or whatever, you can import all of the test cases that you have manually written and understand and analyze if you have missed something or not. So that is where ARD comes into picture, and ARD helps with the model based testing approach.
So I believe that is all that we wanted to cover for today. Thank you for being our expert. And I want to thank our audience for listening in today. You've been great, you're very informative, and I know that you're going to be sharing other topics with us. So I look forward to having you back again.